What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Thursday, August 14th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 13:47 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe and from here in the US. So, tomorrow, Trump will be meeting with Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, in Alaska at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage. So I'm going to try to provide as much coverage as I can of this historic meeting. But we're hearing that, according to the Wall Street Journal, Trump does not plan to discuss territorial issues in his meeting with Putin, with the main goal said to be securing a temporary ceasefire. The Wall Street Journal said Trump has coordinated red lines with Europe, with the Alaska meeting set as the first stage of talks and a second planned in Russia. NBC News is also confirming this. So we have the Wall Street Journal and NBC News reporting the same thing, that they will not discuss any kind of territorial issues of Ukraine giving land away to Russia, that the main goal will be to secure at least a temporary ceasefire and then have further talks in Russia, the second round of talks in Russia, okay? And that's why Trump was on the phone with all the leaders in Europe yesterday and with Zelensky, because he wanted to understand what Europe's red lines are, okay, before he meets with Trump. So this is absolutely huge news. And we're hearing that 6 European leaders took part in the pre-Alaska phone call with Trump and Zelensky, and they were Friedrich Merz, the Chancellor of Germany, Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, Karol Nawrocki, the President of Poland, and Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland. So all the major regions of Europe were represented in this phone call. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump does not plan to discuss territorial issues in his meeting with Putin, with the main goal said to be securing a ceasefire. The paper says Trump has coordinated red lines with Europe, with the Alaska meeting set as the first stage of talks and a second planned in Russia. NBC News is also reporting the same thing, that Trump does not plan to discuss territorial issues. Okay, so we have two solid sources here saying that the territorial issues will not be discussed at this meeting. NBC News and the Wall Street Journal are both confirming this, and that the whole purpose of the meeting is to secure a ceasefire and to sort of just get a general idea of where Putin is at. That's what Marco Rubio said the other day. Yesterday, Marco Rubio said that the meeting will be more exploratory in nature, okay? So keep in mind, guys, this is just the first initial meeting, but it is historic. This is probably the first time in 10 or 20 years that the Russian president has been on U.S. soil. I can't remember the last time he came to the U.S., if it was during the Obama years or if it was all the way back to the Bush years, when Bush used to invite Putin to his ranch in Texas, okay? And the British Telegraph is reporting that Trump may offer Russia economic incentives to end the war. U.S. President Donald Trump is preparing several economic offers to present to Russian President Vladimir Putin during Friday's meeting to incentivize him to end the war in Ukraine, including opening up Alaska's natural resources to Russia, giving Russia access to rare earth minerals in several territories in eastern Ukraine, and lifting some of the sanctions imposed against the Russian aviation industry by the U.S. So this is huge news, guys, giving Russia access to natural resources in Alaska. That is absolutely insane. Maybe he's going to let Russia drill for oil in Alaska. I don't know. I mean, Russia has plenty of natural resources. I don't know why they would need resources in Alaska. I mean, they're just full of natural resources. Russia is absolutely massive, and they have tons of oil and gas. So I don't know if that will actually happen. They don't really need Alaska's natural resources, but the rare earth minerals in Ukraine, I'm sure Putin would be interested in, and the lifting of the sanctions. And ahead of this meeting, we have U.S. strategic forces and nuclear forces on high alert. So what you're looking at here is a live flight tracker over Montana. And you can see we have several U.S. aerial refuelers flying over Montana. Now in Montana, we have one of our missile wings. We have three land-based ICBM missile wings in the U.S., one in Montana, one in North Dakota, and one in Wyoming. The one in Montana is right outside of Great Falls, and for there to be so many aerial refuelers over this area is very, very unusual, and this is right now. Also, we have a nuke sniffer plane up in the air over eastern Montana that just got aerially refueled. You can see it right here on the flight tracker. Took off from Offutt Air Base, the home of U.S. Strategic Command, went up to eastern Montana, and it is now getting aerially refueled, or just got aerially refueled, right over Weebaugh and looks like Glendive, eastern Montana, right near the border of North Dakota. And then also we have a Cobra Ball doing loops over eastern Nebraska. Now, the Cobra Ball plane is used to detect the trajectory of missiles and track them when some country launches a missile either at us, or if they're just doing a test, this plane can track the missile, detect the launch. So this is very interesting to have a missile tracking and detecting plane and a nuke sniffer airborne over the U.S. at the same time is pretty rare. We also have a nuclear war command and control plane up in the air over Nevada. So something is definitely going on. This is probably related to the meeting tomorrow. And here we actually have some footage that was provided to me by a viewer of the channel and a friend of mine in Nebraska. This was yesterday. We had this nuke sniffer plane that was flying over eastern Nebraska. There it is right there. Pretty cool to actually see the plane in real life. And it was apparently flying with its transponder turned off, which means that it was unable to be tracked. So it must have been a high priority mission. Actually, this was a Combat Sentinel, which is a high priority recon plane, not a nuke sniffer. My apologies. This was a Combat Sentinel, and officially we only have 2 of these in the U.S. Air Force. So for one of them to be airborne with its tracker off means that they were doing something important, and that plane gives intelligence directly to the U.S. President and the top generals. And then here we have a presidential doomsday plane that was airborne over eastern Nebraska as well. Check it out. Also with its tracker turned off. So big thanks to Jason for sending me these videos. Here's a better shot. You can see that it's a doomsday plane because it's pure white and it has that blue stripe across the middle, and they're just monstrous planes. But our nuclear forces are on very high alert because of this meeting. And yesterday we had 2 presidential doomsday planes on the flight tracker, including that one that I just showed you the video of. So potentially 3 doomsday planes airborne. And then we also had a nuke sniffer plane and that Combat Sentinel all airborne yesterday. Okay, now the nuke sniffers, they can detect radiation in the atmosphere. All right, one doomsday plane flew to DC, and then another one did like a big loop over the Midwest and landed in Nebraska. So continuity of government is definitely in play right now in case something were to happen at that meeting. And we also have a lot of sub hunting activity off the coast of Florida for the last 2 days. We've had two P-8 Poseidon sub hunters from Jacksonville Naval Air Station fly to this area just off the coast of Orlando. This is from this afternoon. And then yesterday there were two more in the same spot. So something is going on over here off the coast of Orlando. And then we also had this high priority reconnaissance plane fly through the Baltics and along the border of Finland and Russia and along the Baltic Russian border and around Kaliningrad in northern Poland. We also had this U.S. Navy sub hunter fly into the Black Sea, and what's interesting is it flew all the way towards the eastern part of the Black Sea and did a couple of loops there. That's where Russia has their Black Sea fleet. They moved it from Crimea to Novorossiysk. So potentially Russia may be planning some kind of missile attacks on Ukraine soon. And the Russian President Vladimir Putin praised the Trump administration's energetic efforts to stop the war in Ukraine and hinted that Moscow and Washington could strike a deal on nuclear arms control during their summit on Friday in Alaska. In his first public comments since U.S. President Donald Trump announced the Alaska summit, Putin on Thursday chaired a meeting of senior Russian officials at the Kremlin to brief them on the state of play in negotiations with the U.S. on Ukraine. He said the current American administration is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved in this conflict, Putin said. In his brief remarks, Putin said the summit with the U.S. aims to create long-term conditions for peace between our countries, as well as in Europe and in the world as a whole. He suggested this broader peace can be achieved if in the next stages of discussions with the U.S. we reach agreements in the area of control over strategic offensive weapons. Wow. So sounds like Putin really wants a nuclear arms treaty of some kind with Trump, and it seems like everything is resting on that based on what he said. So this is going to be a very interesting meeting. It doesn't sound like they're going to talk about the 4 provinces in Ukraine that Russia has annexed. It seems like they're going to talk more about nuclear arms control and just larger strategical issues between the U.S. and Russia and NATO. And Ukrainian intelligence is reporting that Russia wants to end the war by 2026. And in preparations for Putin's visit to the U.S. state of Alaska on Friday, the U.S. Treasury Department has briefly relaxed sanctions on Russia in terms of commercial and aviation restrictions. Interesting. So they've already relaxed some of the sanctions on their aviation industry. And last night, Russia's Volgograd refinery was attacked by Ukrainian drones. Multiple Ukrainian attack drones hit the facility, causing a major fire that continued to burn into the morning. The Lukoil facility had a refining capacity of 15.7 million tons per year, over 300,000 barrels of oil per day. And I also want to remind you guys that yesterday they also hit the Druzhba pipeline, the Ukrainians did, and that's that gas pipeline that goes from Russia to Hungary. So Ukraine is really stepping up their attacks on these critical energy infrastructure targets. And I want to share something very, very creepy with you guys. So some of you guys may be aware of the Illuminati card game. It was made in the mid-90s. And a lot of the cards in the Illuminati card game have predicted events like 9/11. And so we have these cards here from the Illuminati card game showing martial law. Look at that. We have National Guardsmen here standing in front of the White House. Okay, and this is the martial law card from the Illuminati card game. And then also we have this card for emergency powers. Okay, and this is clearly predicting what's going on right now with Trump deploying National Guard to Washington, D.C. Okay, here we have some pictures of the National Guard staging right outside of the Washington Monument. You can see all these Humvees here. Here we have some more pictures showing the National Guard outside of the Washington Monument. Here we have some National Guardsmen signing their paperwork for deployment. You can see them right there signing their paperwork. Looks like we have mostly military police here, but I'm sure there's other units involved. Here we have them loading up some trucks with supplies. So this is absolutely historic, the fact that the U.S. has deployed National Guard to their capital now. I don't know when the last time they did that, but it's been a while. And Norway's security chief says Russia was behind a cyber attack in April on a dam in the town of Bremanger, where hackers took control of the facility, according to the police security service. And according to CNN, the White House has stated that the guardsmen within the District of Columbia National Guard that have been deployed to D.C. will not be armed or making arrests, adding that they are there to create a safe environment for other officers throughout D.C. Interesting. Well, that's what they say initially, that they're not going to be armed, but I highly doubt that. And an MQ-9B Guardian with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection flew down to Mexico. An MQ-9 is a recon drone, flew 600 miles into Mexico, into Mexican airspace, and conducted a reconnaissance patrol near territory controlled by the La Nueva cartel before shutting its tracker off. The rare public flight was reportedly done with Mexico's permission and comes amid the Trump administration's push to use military force against cartels. Okay, so this is absolutely huge news, guys. Okay, the U.S. sending a recon drone into Mexico, 600 miles just west of Mexico City, patrolling areas controlled by the La Nueva cartel. So the next step is going to be strikes. Okay, they're going to start using drones to strike these cartels in Mexico, just like during the Obama years, they used the Predator drones to take out Al-Qaeda and all those groups in Afghanistan. And overnight last night, the Houthis launched another ballistic missile towards Israel. The missile was intercepted by Israeli air defenses with no injuries or damage reported. And the Israeli finance minister gives the green light to build 3,400 settlement units in a disputed area near Jerusalem. So Israel is now building on disputed territory, so that could potentially inflame the terrorist elements in Israel. And also we know that Israel is now in the process of occupying Gaza and potentially annexing it. And California Governor Gavin Newsom said that California will move forward with drawing new congressional maps that he said will, quote-unquote, end the Trump presidency and allow Democrats to take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. But we're also hearing now that, according to the latest Politico Citron Center lab, that the majority of Californians do not want this redistricting to happen. California Governor Gavin Newsom faces a major hurdle in his quest to revamp his state's congressional lines, according to a new poll. Californians' deep support for its current independent redistricting commission. By nearly a 2-to-1 margin, voters prefer keeping an independent line drawing panel to determine the state's House seats. The latest Politico survey found just 36% of respondents back returning congressional redistricting authority to state lawmakers, okay? So this is absolutely huge news. And Hamas called for an escalation in the global movement against Israel, asking for protests in front of Israeli and U.S. embassies around the world over the weekend. They also called on student bodies at universities to, quote unquote, activate all means to pressure Israel. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has released a photo of Patrick Joseph White, the gunman who killed 33-year-old DeKalb County officer David Rose during an attempted mass shooting last week at the headquarters for the CDC in Atlanta. During his attack, White fired over 500 rounds from several firearms he had stolen from his father's gun cabinet, with close to 100 striking the patrol car of Officer Rose as he arrived on scene, with at least 200 struck buildings at the CDC campus. Wow, so this is kind of a weird situation. I don't know what to make of it. Is this a false FLAG or is this legitimate? It just seems so convenient that, he stole his father's guns from his gun cabinet and then he went and attacked the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. It seems like a psyop to me, but the CDC headquarters in Atlanta houses some of the most, actually the most dangerous and deadly toxins in the world. They have the last vials of smallpox in the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, and who knows what else they have there. Probably all kinds of chimera viruses and different things that, are just the stuff of science fiction movies. Okay, but this is a very weird situation with this shooting, but over 200 bullets struck the CDC building. And there were some massive riots in Serbia last night. More than 60 civilians and 16 police officers were injured during protests in Belgrade and Novi Sad. Authorities said the student and opposition-led protests began after the collapse of a canopy at the Novi Sad railway station on November 1st of 2024, which caused numerous casualties. The tragedy is believed to have been the result of corruption, and the demonstrators are demanding early parliamentary elections. We're hearing that the rioters destroyed the office of the ruling party in Novi Sad. And there were also Serbian media outlets circulating a photo of a police officer beating a woman with a baton during the riots. So potentially there could be another color revolution in Serbia underway right now. And the UK has expanded police facial recognition rollout with 10 new live facial recognition vans deployed to 7 regions. They will use AI to scan the faces of people out on the streets. Wow. Okay, so this is being rolled out in the UK by the UK police. And the classified India-Pakistan National Intelligence Assessment report prepared by the CIA was leaked on the Black Vault, a Discord community notorious for releasing controversial U.S. intelligence, including material on Russia in 2023. The full assessment spans 13 pages, but only the cover page and the report summary have surfaced, with the leaker demanding $3,000 for the remaining 12 pages. Even so, the summary contains the key findings and evaluations of the report, including a bombshell revelation that India is reportedly planning an imminent incursion across the international border of India and Pakistan. Wow. And Poland just signed a $4 billion deal with the U.S. to upgrade all of their 48 F-16 fighter jets from Block CD-52 Plus to the most modern version, the F-16V Block 70/72. So very, very interesting. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with a live update, so keep an eye out. Sometime tonight after 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I may go live and do some live coverage of these protests in Serbia. Follow me on Patreon. I've been posting text updates there, so if you don't have time to watch these videos in full, you can at least get a text summary of all the major headlines, and that's for Patreon members and also Silver members on YouTube. Okay, I do those text updates, and then also I post these videos first on Patreon before I post them to YouTube, and there's no ads on Patreon when you watch my videos. So consider joining my Patreon. That's patreon.com/NYPrepper. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.